That night, in the community donation room at Seabright Estates, I was rolling on my sleeve for the third HOA fine when the old man behind me quietly unclipped an old brass key from his keyring. He set on the metal tray with a heavy clack. "Take it as an advance," he said. "Go find G. Harrow at the clubhouse." I never met anyone who paid with legacy. By Christmas Eve, I was setting a table where everyone had a seat, and I just discovered that key was the master switch to flipping the entire HOA charter. My name is Taylor Evans. I am 29 years old, and I am an electrician. I own Anchor Spark Electrical, or maybe it owns me. I live in Seabright Estates, California, a gated paradise that sells itself as coastal perfection, but up close reeks of fresh-cut grass, chlorine, and quiet desperation. That night, I stood in my tiny townhouse, the one squeezed between identical beige boxes, staring at the ugliest color in the world, violation crimson. A thick red envelope was taped to my door, flapping in the recycled air from the hallway fan. It wasn't a warning. It was final. 3 citations in 1 week. Work van visible after 7 p.m. Extension cords on the lawn longer than 6 inches. And unsightly tools in the driveway. My paycheck from the big retrofit job had stalled because the contractor blamed the city. The city blamed the inspector. And the inspector blamed the new HOA aesthetic codes. My tools were polished. My van was gassed. My bank account was dead. I kicked off my steel toes and drywall dust scattered across the laminate like evidence. My phone buzzed on the counter. "Mom, Elaine, Christmas was stalking me." I opened the text. "Hi, honey. Confirming for Christmas Eve. Keeping it small this year. Just Sabrina's immediate family and her boyfriend Brent." I read it 5 times. Immediate family. Sabrina is my sister. Same parents. She got the scholarship. The finance fiancé with perfect veneers. I got calluses on calluses. The permanent smell of solder on my clothes. And a van I bought at auction. I wasn't immediate. I was the outlier. The text was casual cruelty dressed as politeness. "We're keeping it small. You are not small. You are other. You are the one who brings the wrong energy to the polished dining table." I dropped the phone. The red envelope pulsed like a warning light for my entire life. Family rejection slammed into the blunt threat of another $750 in fines and possible lien on my townhouse. Perfect storm. I wasn't just broke. I was untethered. My hands, raw knuckles from armored cable, white scar from a wire stripper, could light an entire subdivision but couldn't conjure compliance with the HOA Bible. I grabbed my jacket and headed to the Westline Community Donation Center. It was open late for holiday blood drives. The walk through the fog was brutal. Perfect lawns glowed under sodium lights, Everblade exactly 2 inches. The center sat between the laundromat and the guard shack. Inside smelled of rubbing alcohol, failing to hide the metallic tang of quiet defeat. Fluorescent tubes buzzed with that 60-cycle hum I hated as an electrician. One ballast flickered like my patience. I filled out the form, lied about my last meal, passed the tests, sat in the cracked recliner. The phlebotomist tied the strap. The needle went in. I focused on the flicker, counting beats. That's when I noticed him. Old, maybe 70, dark wool coat, scuffed but once expensive shoes. He didn't belong. Stillness in a room of nervous legs. 45 minutes later, the needle came out. I got my voucher, $80 that felt like tissue paper. As I turned to leave, he was there, silent. He reached past me to the stainless tray and unclipped the heavy brass key. Clack! It cut through the hum like a breaker tripping. "Take it as an advance," he rasped. "Go find G. Harrow at the clubhouse." His pale blue eyes had seen everything. The security guard sighed. "Just take it and go." I stared at the key. Heavy. Old. The engraving on the bow read RM 1969 MH, microscopic. Machine perfect. Not random. The case had been opened recently. Fresh tool marks. This wasn't an heirloom. It was a tool. I slid it into my pocket, left the 80 on the counter, and stepped into the cold night. The key felt heavier than the fines. It felt like responsibility. The fog smelled of salt and diesel from the distant harbor, but here it mixed with manicured perfection. That clack hadn't been just metal on metal. It was a key. It unlocked the door I'd bolted shut, the one leading back to the sterile beige house in the heart of Seabright Estates. We didn't live in decay. We lived in oppressive neatness. My father Martin mowed the lawn every Saturday at 9 a.m. Sharp. Mom Elaine waged daily war against dust, pollen, and unauthorized life. Every surface gleamed, every window sealed. My strongest memory is Windex sting and the sigh of the vacuum. The house was defined by absence. No mud. No loud voices. No complications. I was the complication. Sabrina fit perfectly. Clean. Quiet. Pearl-scented. I smelled like copper and ozone. I took things apart. Toaster dead? I rewired it on the kitchen floor. Grounded for the mess, even though it worked. Grandpa Rylon, Mom's father she never spoke of, understood. His workshop smelled of sawdust and motor oil. He taught me electricity is organized lightning. Don't wait for an invitation to the table. Kid, pull up your own damn chair. Mom hated me going there. Banned me from family brunches because not enough beds. Raylan's house was escape. He taught me schematics like stories. Listen under the quiet. He said, you'll hear the hum before it sparks. When I was 17, I chose Brightline Technical College. Mom's face twisted. Manual labor? Promise you'll wear gloves for photos. I won the state wiring competition. Showed her the plaque. She touched my cheek, avoiding the smudge. Nice. Dear. Don't stay up late, bad for skin. That was the circuit break. I stopped needing their approval. Dignity was in the calluses. Rylon died 2 weeks after graduation. Left me his wire strippers in a carved box. Keep building. I started Anchor Spark with a rusty van. Mom's calls always pivoted to Sabrina's latest success. I stopped fighting. I put the anger into spools of copper and emergency calls. Then the big condo retrofit stalled. Fines piled up. The red envelope arrived. Mom's text landed. Immediate family only. The key in my pocket hummed like live wire. I sat in a donut shop booth. Turned the key under greasy light. Engraving RM 1969 MH. I knew who could read it. Val's Watchworks. Old horologist who hated quartz. Next morning, I laid the key on his felt mat. Val leaned in with his loop. Not watch key. Asset tag. Monroe Harbor Holdings. Old conglomerate that built this whole gated mess before it became an HOA Karen 1969. Red Monroe Project. The year they rebuilt the community clubhouse after the big storm. This key opened something big. People don't just hand these over. Be careful. Vega Pier was now the old clubhouse at the edge of the estates, condemned looking but chained with a new generator. I parked the van a block away. Wind whipped brine and creosote. At the end of the pier-like access road stood Granary 1, the original community center. Chain new. Generator rumbling. Under it, the hum high. Frantic. Stressed. Circuit screaming. I didn't knock. Side door propped. Inside, for guys installing a new main panel. Air thick with ozone and melting plastic. The breaker shrieked. You're in phase imbalance. I yelled. They turned. Lady, we know what we're doing. Foreman reached for the handle. I lunged. Hit the old disconnect. Clunk. Silence. Smoke rose from the new bus bar. A woman stepped from the shadows. 60-ish. Silver hair. Black suit. Steel-toed boots. Mara Quinn. chief counsel for the Monroe Harbor Fund that still technically own the land under the HOA. You just saved us $1 million building. The crew scrambled out. She assessed me. Electrician with a good ear. And I suspect a new key. I cover my pocket. How? I'm Mara Quinn. We've been waiting for the person who hears the hum. That crew failed. You passed. She made the offer right there. Inspect every circuit in Granary 1. Tell me what's safe and what's been sabotaged. Do it and you get archive access. I think the history of that key will interest you. For 2 days, I lived in the clubhouse. Traced every wire. Found deliberate sabotage, grounds cut short, phases crossed, timers set to overload at night. Someone wanted this place to burn slowly. Looked like accidents. I documented everything. On day 3, I handed Mara the report. She read it, folded it. Deliberate attack. Promise is promise. Come with me. The Monroe Harbor building was glass and steel. Opposite the clubhouse's raw brick. Mara took me to the climate-controlled archives. RM 1969 MH. That's the box. Red Monroe Project 1969. Heavy gray archival carton. Inside, leather ledgers and black and white photos of the pier rebuild. Men in hard hats. No harnesses. One photo. Group celebrating clubhouse reopening. Center man in dark suit. Raising glass. Late 40s. Hard, confident face. Same pale blue eyes as the donation center stranger. On his wrist, the key fob clipped to a chain. Caption, Gideon Monroe. Founder. Celebrating Granary 1 rebuild. 1969. Gideon G. Hero. The floor dropped. The old man was Gideon Monroe, the man who wrote the original covenants before the HOA turned them into weapons. He'd been in a donation center on a Tuesday night. I flipped to the last item, laminated close-up of the key on black velvet. Handwritten caption in strong, angry scroll I recognized from Raylan's box, the timekeeper's key. A heavy burden given not to the one who inherits the seat, but to the one who keeps a place for everyone. My blood froze. Elaine was Raylan's daughter. She'd sawed off the manual labor branch. Must have been mortified by the rough origins of the money that bought her perfect beige life. Gee, Harrow wasn't a person. Anagram test. Gideon Harbor. The founder himself. Hiding. Testing bloodline. The message was clear. The key was given to me. The one just uninvited from her family's table. Keeps a place for everyone. Mara, watch me. You look like you just heard the hum of a bad circuit. I whispered the truth. Rylon knew Gideon. Same handwriting. She smiled thin and sharp. Invitation and test. You passed. We've had trouble with contractors on this property. Things burning out. Almost like someone wants the clubhouse condemned so the land can be sold for luxury condos. We needed a real electrician. Now you have archive access. Use it wisely. I spent the next week tracing history. The bylaws had a hidden clause, Bylaw 11.3. The seat clause, written by Gideon in 1971. If any resident hosts a meal of substance in the Harbor District, open to all, certified by at least 12 signatures from excluded or fine members. And the current chair has purposefully excluded a bloodline member. Control transfers to the host. Permanent. Self-correcting. Power taken by inclusion. Lost only by exclusion. Perfect moral trap. Meanwhile, the fines kept coming. My van got another red tag. Mom's neighborhood chat group lit up with passive-aggressive posts. Some people think rules don't apply to them. Sabrina posted a photo of her perfect holiday table setup. I wasn't in it. I slept 3 hours in the van. Key cold against my chest. At dawn, I was back at the clubhouse. The hum was steady now. My wiring held. I started dreaming again, not of their polished table. A long one. Reclaimed scaffolding planks. Scratches and well burns. Warm Edison bulbs. Mismatched chairs. Big enough for everyone. Christmas Eve approached. The HOA had banned all unapproved gatherings after 6 p.m. for safety and aesthetics. Mom's text reminder, small family affair. I didn't answer. I called Miguel from Brightline. We pulled every reclaimed plank from storage. Lo from the food truck owed me for rewiring his generator last summer. I asked for one favor. He laughed. Big table? I'm in. I printed cream-colored cards. If you have ever been excluded from a table or fined into silence, please add your name. This is your seat. No RSVP required. At 6 p.m., I backed the van into the common park. Deliberate violation. Unloaded planks. String lights. By 7, the table stretched 50 feet under the old oaks. Golden web glowed. Smell of mesquite and chowder rolled out. First signers. Al, the night guard who'd been fined for his truck. Maria, the receptionist band for her kids' bikes. Crane operators. Electricians. Sweepers. All the people Mom called eyesores. No kids' table. Children ran free. Guitars played soft melodies on empty conduit spools. The wind howled outside the gates. Inside it was magic. 200 faces lit by kind light. I stood at the center near Grandma May, Gideon's wife, who'd shown up in her best coat. For words. Thanks for coming. Room erupted. Grandma May raised her cocoa mug. My husband Gideon always said this place was the heart. For 30 years I had small, quiet, polite Christmases. This is real. To Taylor, who builds tables. The echo shook the oaks. Phones came out. Photos posted. Crane operator tagged his cousin married to Mom's neighbor. Receptionist clipped the guitars and tagged the community page. Dinner at Granary Park. Everyone has a seat. My phone screamed, custom fire alarm ringtone for Elaine. I looked at the stack of sign cards. 52. Proof. I declined. Blacked the screen. Tucked the cards against the key in my jacket. The party wound down in waves of gratitude. Guests hugged with rough, real hands. Al pressed a carved wooden bird into my palm. Maria's kids touched my arm. God bless you. By midnight, only Grandma May remained. I called her car. She gripped my forearm. Finest meal since 1970. Then my phone flared back to life. Flood of texts. 12 missed calls from Elaine. You have humiliated us. Pictures everywhere. Brent's parents saw. I'm coming down there. Grandma May's face hardened into Monroe steel. Answer it or let it burn. I hit speaker. Set the phone on the scarred table. Taylor. Mom's voice was a thin shiv of rage. That grotesque performance in our park with those people. You made us a laughingstock. Brent's parents are here. They saw you and her presiding over a soup kitchen like some cheap self-righteous. Dad's smoother damage control voice cut in. Honey, we're confused. You've lost control of the family narrative. We're trying to build a story of quality with Brent, and you've dragged us back into the mud. Men in dirty boots. It's not who we are. I put my hand on the wood. I sanded myself. I'm not confused. Dad, I just stopped auditioning for a part in yours. Mom sputtered. I did what you told me. You said keep it to immediate family. So I did. I chose the one you abandoned. Silence like a vacuum. Then Grandma May leaned in. That is quite enough. Elaine. Mom gasped. Mother? I thought you were ill. May's voice cut clean. I was at my granddaughter's dinner. The one I was invited to. The one that felt like home. Not a stage. You've been the star of your own narrative for 30 years. Now listen. She recounted everything. Graduation where Mom pushed me out of the photo for my dirty shirt. Living room ban because copper smelled common. Childhood of being told my hands were an embarrassment. You polished this family until there was no life left. Tonight Taylor built a room so full it nearly burst and lit it with kind light. Something you wouldn't know. Crash of glass on the other end. Sabrina's voice broke through. Sobbing. She's right. Mom, it's all my fault. I lied to Brent. His father's a plumber. A big successful one. But I lied because I was scared you'd look at him the way you always looked at Taylor. I didn't want you to call him common. Click. The main breaker tripped. The sterile family narrative shorted out. Sabrina kept going. I was so jealous of you. Taylor, you were real. You had hands. All I had was clean. I vote for Taylor. I looked at May. Her eyes were fierce. I ended the call. The table was still warm. The lights still kind. I didn't go back to my townhouse. I went back to the clubhouse. Spread a drop cloth by the new panel, purring perfect power. Used my jacket as pillow. Right hand closed around the stack of 52 cards and the heavy key. I listened to the harbor hum through the walls. Ships, generators, buoys, all connected. Rylan was right. It was the sound of a neighborhood waiting for someone to turn on the lights. Christmas morning. Sharp industrial dawn cut through the high window. Dust danced like golden sparks. I fastened the key to my belt loop like a badge. Tool bag over shoulder. Work boots loud on the polished floor of the HOA boardroom on the top floor. Glass box overlooking the estates. Sterile black table. Framed photos of perfect lawns. Mara Quinn already there. Silver shark in pantsuit. At the head. Mom, immaculate navy suit. Blonde helmet hair. Red nails tapping. PR advisor sweating beside her. Two old board members. Harlan and David. Mom didn't look at me. This emergency meeting is highly irregular. As acting chairwoman, I have convened it. One item, breach of security and flagrant misuse of common property at Granary Park. Mara, explain why you authorized this. Mara smiled. Good morning. Harlan. David. This meeting was not convened to discuss a breach. It was convened to execute Bylaw 11.3. The C clause. Mom laughed thin and tight. That sentimental nonsense my father wrote in his dotage? Non-binding fairy tale. No power here. On the contrary, Mara said, it is the only thing that has power here. I stepped forward. My boots clumped on concrete. Mom finally looked. Eyes full of old, pure hatred. You're not permitted in this room. You're not a member. Security. Mara cut her off. She is a material witness. And the primary executrix. Executive of what? Mom sneered. A bonfire for vagrants? No. I said steady. Execution of terms. The C clause was activated last night at 7 p.m. I moved to the table. Unslung my tool bag. Reached into my jacket. Laid the evidence one by one on the mirror surface. First, Gideon's letter from a vault. Second, the thick stack of 52 sign cards, thud. 12 signatures required. I said. Third, flash drive of time-stamped photos. Fourth, the heavy brass key. I unclipped it from my belt. Clack. Same sound as the donation tray. Loud as a gunshot. Mom's mask shattered. She knew the key. Theater. The PR man stammered. No legal standing. Memorabilia. Mara produced her file. It is the precise 5-point requirement. She read the clause into record. Upon validation, all voting rights and control shall transfer immediately to the host or the new acting chair, do themselves purposefully and with malice exclude an individual from their table. The room inhaled sharply. Gideon hadn't built a key. He'd built a trap. Power taken by inclusion, lost only by exclusion. Mom slammed her hand. This is insane. Vague. Unenforceable. I slid my phone across. You seem expert on the term. Mom. I flipped it. The text glowed. This year it's just Sabrina's little family and her boyfriend Brent. Harlan's old eyes narrowed. Does that seem vague to you? Sir, she didn't just exclude me. She excluded a bloodline member. Violated the spirit. Armed me to execute it. The fun lawyer on speaker crackled. This would be tied in court for 10 years. Frivolous. Mara smiled cold. We anticipated that. She slid notarized affidavit from Val confirming the key against 1970 insurance records. Forensic handwriting analysis matching the vault letter. The archival photo. And Raylan's box. All Gideon Monroe. Chain of custody unbroken. Harlan read. PR man sweated. Mom stared at the key like it had bitten her. Then the back door opened slowly. Grandma May walked in. Dark blue coat. Small, but sucking air from the room. Mother. Mom hissed. You are not permitted. Closed meeting. I am A. Monroe. She said clear. Wife of the founder. For 20 years, I have been purposefully excluded from my daughter's table. I was at Granary Park last night. I certify the act. Light was kind. Every chair full. Harlan tapped his pen. Documentation staggering. Personal testimony of founder's wife compelling. Clause ironclad. Conditions met. Board required to vote to ratify transfer. Emergency vote. Mom stood shaking, but drawing on 30 years of polish. Harlan. David. Gentlemen. We cannot allow this theatrical ambush. For 30 years, I have provided stability. Grown assets, 400%. Maintain dignity of the Monroe name. This girl has dragged it through the mud. We are an HOA, not a food bank. I appeal to tradition. I vote no. Harlan looked at her. Tradition? Gideon's tradition was 1979 Christmas Eve, with longshoremen trying to unionize. Or your tradition, the small clean table with seats only for people who look just like you? Mom recoiled. Harlan turned. David? David opened his eyes. I vote with Harlan. Harlan, I vote to affirm the charter. Transfer valid. This is not over. Mom shrieked. Mask on. The proxy vote, deciding vote. It's split 2-1. As acting chair, I hold the proxy. I vote no. Mara calm. Proxy attached, not to the chair, but to the timekeeper's key. Legally transferred to Miss Evans upon acceptance and fulfillment. However, she looked toward the door. The main door opened one last time. He stood there. Old man from the donation center. No heavy coat now. Simple dark blue work shirt. Sleeves rolled. Forearms corded. Wrist bare. Pale blue, eyes sharp and alive. Mom made a small choking sound. He stepped inside. My apologies for the delay. Harlan. Traffic from the pier was terrible. Gideon. Harlan whispered. Father. Mom breathed, smallest sound I'd ever heard her make. Gideon Monroe walked to the head of the table. Didn't look at her. Looked at me. Nodded once. You heard the current. He turned to the board. You can call me Gideon. You can call me G. Harrow. The name was just a test. The position is timekeeper. He looked at the key on the table. That proxy vote is not void. I am here, and I believe my key is already on the correct belt. Gideon, let's silent stretch. Looked at Harlan. I wrote the clause. Been waiting 50 years for someone with guts to execute it. I vote for the clause. Harlan picked up the gavel. Board vote 2-1 to affirm. Pending proxy. The timekeeper's vote is called. From the back row, Sabrina stood trembling. Brent tried to pull her. She shook him off. I'm a member of this family. I was at that perfect, awful silent table last night. I lied because I was scared. I vote for Taylor. Complete betrayal. Mom collapsed into her chair. Dad closed his eyes. Narrative dead. Grandma May squeezed my shoulder. Flip the switch. Child. I put both hands flat on the cold polished table. Gripped the edges. I don't want her chair. I said, this chair is too small. Too clean. Only one of them. I'm not here to take her chair. I'm here because I need a table that's long enough. Harlan understood. He looked at Gideon. The board's vote is 2-1. Pending the proxy. The deciding vote is now called. Room vacuum. Only sound. Faint high-frequency hum of the ceiling lights. Gideon looked at Elaine. At Sabrina. At May. At me. Nodded slow. I wrote the clause. I vote for the clause. Harlan brought the gavel down. Not loud. Sharp, definitive crack. Sound of a circuit breaker finally tripping. The vote is affirmed. Conditions of Bylaw 11.3 met in full. All controlling interest and voting rights of the Seabright Estates, HOA, hereby transferred to the host. The new chairwoman is Miss Taylor Evans. Gideon smiled. Old mechanic hearing a difficult engine turn over. He reached into his shirt pocket. Massive iron ring of keys, 30 skeleton keys. Brass, pitted with sea salt. Keys to engine rooms. Fences, heavy iron doors. Keys to the work. He held them out, not dropping them. These are for the East warehouses your mother planned to sell to luxury developers. She thought they were liabilities. I think are the perfect place to start. I took the ring. Weight extraordinary. Felt like lifetime of calluses. It's not the Monroe Harbor HOA anymore. Chairwoman, Gideon said, we're the Long Table Association, and you've got a lot of building to do. Mom made a low tearing sound. Perfect navy mask dissolved. Face crumpled. Narrative erased. Dad stared at his reflection. Lip bleeding. Sabrina cried tears of relief. Brent stood with her. I looked at the key in my hand. Turned it over. Not jewelry. Most expensive wrench I'd ever held. Light flashed on the bow. Bright blue-white spark like a welding arc joining two pieces stronger. I walked to the head of the table. Pulled the sleek black microphone. Red light on. Speakers hissed. My voice filled the glass box. At my table, I said slow and clear, everyone has a seat. I looked at Mom's shaking shoulders. At Dad's bleeding lip. At Sabrina's tear-streaked, hopeful face. Everyone, even the ones who spent a lifetime pulling my chair away. Harlan nodded sharp. Brought the gavel down again. Clack. As if that sound was the main breaker. The track lights flared to 100%. Sterile white became brilliant honest, dawn blasting every shadow. Grandma May stood. Clapped. Sharp clear. Harlan put down gavel and clapped heavy. Mara smiled full and clapped. Brent clapped. Sabrina threw her tears and clapped. Wade became roar. Gideon leaned close. Good timekeeping. Chairwoman. I slipped the key onto my belt loop. Click. Circuit complete. Weight settled. Anchor. Ground wire. Heavy glass doors slid open with pneumatic hiss. December morning gust from the harbor rushed in cold. Sharp. Real. Smelled of salt. Diesel. Damp wood. Metallic tang of work. Ruffled PR man's hair. Scattered Mom's useless papers across the floor. I stood at the head. New bright dawn at my back. Real harbor wind on my face. Across the glass wall, the gold letters of the old HOA sign caught morning light. In the reflection, I saw my own face, messy hair, canvas jacket, dirty boots, and I was in charge. I turned to my new board to Mara. Harlan, Gideon, gestured to the open door, to the neighborhood beyond. Come on in, I said. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I would absolutely love to know where in the world you're listening from. So, please drop a comment below and let's connect. Share your thoughts. Share your own stories. And if you enjoyed this, please subscribe, like this video, and give that hype button a press to help this story reach more people who need to hear it.